Have you ever thought about, those really tough times, like
Hmm.
the moments that really test you?
Yeah.
If those could actually become like your biggest strengths,
Yeah,
it sounds kind of crazy, right?
it does.
But that's exactly what we're going to dig into today. The idea of wounds becoming gifts, and especially how it's explored in shamanic energy medicine. So we'll be focusing on a YouTube video and a blog post by Shaman John Rasmussen.
Okay.
Both are titled, Our Wounds Become Our Gifts.
Hmm. It's such a fascinating concept, and it really seems to connect with a lot of people. Rasmussen asks a really thought-provoking question right at the beginning. He says, when we heal from something difficult, do we really lose a part of ourselves, or is there something else going on?
I got to admit, I was hooked right there.
Yeah.
And then he uses this analogy of a lava tube, which I thought was so helpful for understanding how energy transforms. Like, imagine molten lava flowing through this hardened tube,
Right.
and the new lava melts away the old lava, so it's constantly changing the path of the flow.
Yeah, it's a really striking image, and Rasmussen connects it so well to like our own personal journeys. It's like even our painful experiences, they aren't completely erased, but instead the way they impact us is always being reshaped by how we process them and integrate them.
So it's less about like forgetting those experiences
Hmm.
and more about changing how they define us.
Exactly. And this is where things get even more interesting. He talks about how this transformation is actually grounded in like basic scientific principles, like the conservation of
Oh,
energy.
wow.
We know that energy can't be destroyed, it can only be transformed. And Rasmussen suggests that this same principle applies to our emotional energy too.
Like when he brings up decomposition in nature, waste becoming fertilizer to fuel new growth.
Mhm.
It made me wonder if like all those difficult feelings, our own emotional waste in a way, could also be repurposed.
Yeah, that's the core idea here. He points to all these different processes that can help facilitate this transformation, both the ones that happen naturally, like crying, or even yelling, when
Yeah.
we need to release pent-up emotion.
Yeah. Those moments where it just has to come out.
Exactly. And then there are the more deliberate practices, like specific shamanic healing techniques. But whether it's instinctive or intentional, he describes these actions as a form of combustion. It's like they break down the intensity of that initial experience so we can start to process it differently.
I love that phrase he uses. He talks about creating space and time to finally digest those difficult experiences. I thought that was so powerful.
Yeah, it really highlights how we're not suppressing those experiences
Oh.
or denying them, but instead we're allowing this natural transformation to occur. We often use words like letting go or releasing, but Rasmussen really emphasizes that the core process is transformation. We're not passively losing something, we're actively converting it into something new.
And this is where he makes that big statement. This is how our wounds become gifts.
Yeah.
And, you know, I gotta admit, I've always been a little skeptical of that idea. Like, how can a painful experience truly become a gift?
It's a question a lot of people struggle with, and I think that's why Rasmussen's approach is so compelling. He's not just giving us some feel-good saying. He's grounding this concept in real processes and principles. What he's really saying is that as we process difficult experiences, we inevitably gain something from them, whether it's wisdom or resilience or a deeper sense of empathy. And those qualities, those gifts, they empower us in so many ways. We can make different choices. We can support others who are going through similar things. And ultimately, we can create more fulfilling experiences for ourselves.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's about recognizing that those experiences, even the painful ones, have shaped us in these really profound ways. They've given us depth and resilience, and this unique perspective that we can use to navigate the world and connect with others in a more meaningful way.
That's amazing.
It really is.
Like, those wounds turned gifts aren't just about our own growth, but also about how we can use them to contribute something positive to the world around us.
That's a great way to put it. And that actually leads us to an even deeper level of this concept. If our wounds can become gifts for ourselves, could they also become gifts that we share with the world on a larger scale?
That's something to think about.
It is.
I'm really curious to explore that further.
Me too.
So let's dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've talked about how processing those difficult experiences can lead to certain gifts like wisdom, resilience, empathy. But I'm kind of curious, how do those actually show up in our lives? Like, what does that transformation actually look like, practically speaking?
Well, let's imagine someone who's been through a betrayal, like a really painful experience that shook their trust in other people. As they're working through that hurt, they might start to develop a much sharper intuition, like a keener sense of discernment when it comes to relationships. They might be more attuned to like red flags or inconsistencies. because they've learned from that past experience.
Oh, I see.
And that newfound wisdom can become a guiding force in their future interactions.
So it's not just about avoiding pain in the future, but using those experiences to make better choices.
Exactly. And that's just one example. Think about someone who's experienced a profound loss. You know, the kind of grief that just feels all-consuming. As they navigate that darkness, they often develop a level of empathy that they didn't have before.
Right.
They can connect with other people's pain in a way that's so much deeper and more genuine because they've walked through the fire themselves.
It's like they've gained a new understanding of the human condition, the fragility of life, the importance of cherishing each moment.
Yeah, exactly. And that understanding can really ripple outward. It influences not just their own lives, but also how they interact with and support others. They become a source of comfort and strength for other people who are hurting because they can offer this level of empathy that comes from lived experience.
You know what I find so inspiring about all this? Is that our own individual healing can actually have this positive impact on the world around us. It's like those gifts we cultivate through our struggles can become something we share with others.
It's such a beautiful idea. When we've been through difficult times and come out the other side, we become these beacons of hope for others who are still navigating those same challenges. We can share our stories, offer guidance, and just remind them that they're not alone.
That reminds me of something Rasmussen mentioned in his video, the concept of transcend and include, from Ken Wilber. Can you maybe explain a little bit more about what that means and how it relates to this whole idea of wounds becoming gifts?
Absolutely. Transcend and include suggests that we don't just rise above our wounds and pretend they never happened. Instead, we actually integrate them into who we are. They become a part of our story, woven into the fabric of our being.
So it's not about erasing the past. It's about embracing it, learning from it,
Yeah.
and using it as fuel for growth.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that those experiences, even the painful ones, have shaped us in these profound ways. They've given us depth, resilience, and this unique perspective that we can use to navigate the world and connect with others in a more meaningful way.
So those wounds turn gifts. They're not just about our own personal growth, but also about how we can use them to contribute something positive to the world around us.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that leads us to like an even deeper layer of this concept. If our wounds can become gifts for ourselves, could they also become gifts that we share with the world on a larger scale?
You know, that idea that our wounds could become gifts we share with the world, it's really stuck with me. But how do we actually, take something so personal and turn it into something that other people can connect with?
You know, we often underestimate the power of our own stories. Like each of us has this unique set of experiences, challenges that we've faced, and the wisdom that we've gained along the way. And those experiences, those scars we carry, they hold so much value, not just for ourselves, but for others who might be going through similar things.
So it's about realizing that our stories, even the messy parts, have something to offer. They can connect with other people on a deeper level than just surface conversation.
Exactly. You know, we often shy away from sharing our authentic selves, especially when it comes to our more difficult experiences. But think about it. Haven't you ever felt that sense of relief, of being seen and understood, when someone else has opened up about their own struggle?
Oh, absolutely. It's like that vulnerability creates this bridge of understanding. It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles.
Yeah, and that's where those gifts come in, the ones we've cultivated through our own healing journeys. When we share our stories authentically, our empathy shines through, our resilience becomes tangible, and our ability to offer genuine support becomes a source of strength for other people.
But it can be kind of scary, right? Putting ourselves out there, especially when it comes to sharing those vulnerable experiences. Like, where do we even begin?
It doesn't have to be this big, grand gesture. It could be as simple as having an honest conversation with a close friend. You know, sharing a piece of your story that feels relevant to what they're going through. Or maybe expressing yourself through some kind of creative outlet, like writing art music. Sometimes channeling those emotions into something tangible can be a powerful first step.
I love that. Finding those outlets that feel safe and authentic for us. But what about when it comes to sharing on a larger scale?
Yeah.
Like if we feel called to share our stories with a wider audience, how do we navigate that?
There are so many different ways to do that. You know, writing blogs or articles, engaging in online communities, even public speaking. The key is to find what feels aligned with your strengths and your passions.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where our personal experiences intersect with something we really care about.
Yes, exactly. And remember, sharing our stories isn't about claiming to have all the answers or presenting ourselves as some kind of expert. It's about offering our authentic perspective,
Yeah.
our own unique piece of the puzzle, and trusting that it might resonate with someone somewhere, and offer them a sense of hope or connection.
This has been such an insightful conversation. It's like we're each holding this piece of thread, a piece of our own story. And when we weave those threads together, we create this tapestry of shared human experience. It's messy and beautiful and full of both light and darkness.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And within that tapestry, those wounds turned gifts become these threads of resilience and empathy and inspiration. They can help illuminate the path for other people and remind us that even in those darkest moments, there's always the possibility of transformation and growth. So as you reflect on your own journey, consider this: what gifts have emerged from your own wounds? And how might you share those gifts with the world, adding your own unique thread to that tapestry of human experience?